this video, and also request to subscribe to this channel and also hit the notification bell so that whenever you upload a new video you are informed or you're notified. Today's video is about environment, precisely net zero emissions. This has become the buzzword, and probably you may have come across this phrase, but ask yourself, what is it all about? In this video we are going to explain what it means, explore its importance, and also look at how countries are achieving net zero emissions. Net zero emissions refers to achievement of an overall balance between greenhouse gas emissions and removal of these gases from the atmosphere. So it basically means that whatever you are producing in terms of greenhouse gases and whatever we have removed from the atmosphere as far as these gases are concerned, we reach a balance such that whatever you are emitting and whatever you are removing is equal, and that gives us a zero. So it refers to the balance between the amount of greenhouse gas produced and the amount removed from the atmosphere. We reach net zero when the amount that we add is no more than the amount taken away. So what are these greenhouse gases? Greenhouse gases, or GHGs, are gases in the Earth's atmosphere that trap heat. They allow sunlight to pass through the atmosphere, but they prevent the heat that the sunlight brings from leaving the atmosphere, leading to what we call a greenhouse effect, or leading to increase in temperatures. The main greenhouse gases are, the main one is carbon dioxide, which accounts for almost 80%. We have methane, which accounts for approximately 10%. We have ozone, we have nitrous oxide, we have fluorinated gases such as CFCs, among others. So carbon dioxide forms the largest part as far as these greenhouse gases are concerned. So greenhouse gases get their name from the greenhouses which are used for, in farming. You know, a greenhouse is full of windows that let in sunlight. That sunlight creates warmth. The big trick of a greenhouse is that it does not let the warmth to escape. That's exactly how greenhouse gases act. They allow sunlight to pass through the atmosphere, but they prevent the heat that the sunlight brings from leaving the atmosphere. Overall, greenhouse gases are a good thing. Without them, our planet would be too cold, and life as we know it would not exist. But there can be too much of a good thing. Scientists are worried that human activities are adding too much of these gases to the atmosphere. When you think about net zero emission, think about it like a bath. Turn on the taps and you add more water. Pull out the plug and the water flows out. The amount of water in the bath depends on the input from the taps and the output through the plug hole. To keep the amount of water in the bath at the same level, you need to make sure that the input and output are balanced. Reaching net zero applies the same principle, requiring us to balance the amount of greenhouse gases that we emit with the amount that we remove. When what we add is no more than what we take away, we reach net zero. This state is also referred to as carbon neutral, although zero emissions and zero carbon are slightly different, as they usually mean that no emissions were produced in the first place. So what's the difference between gross zero and net zero? Given the impact that carbon emissions have on our planet, you might wonder why we are not aiming for zero or gross zero rather than net zero. Gross zero would mean stopping all emissions, which is not realistically attainable across all sectors of our lives and industries. Even with the best efforts to reduce them, there will still be some emissions. Net zero looks at emissions overall, allowing for removal of any unavoidable emissions, such as those from aviation, manufacturing, and other industries. Removing greenhouse gases would be through nature, as trees take carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, or through new technologies or changing the industrial activities. Getting to net zero means we can still produce some emissions as long as they are offset by processes that reduce greenhouse gases already in the atmosphere. For example, this could be things like planting new forest, drawdown technologies like direct air capture. The more emissions that are produced, the more greenhouse gases we will eventually need to remove from the atmosphere to reach net zero. However, to meet the goals of net zero, new emissions of greenhouse gases must be kept as low as possible. This means that we need to rapidly phase out fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and gas, and transition to renewable energy. What is net? Why is it important? Evidence shows that our planet has been getting hotter. The warmest 20 years on the record have been in the last 20 or 22 years, according to the World Meteorological Organization. And the warmest of these are very recent, from 2015 to 2020 or 2020. Global average temperatures are now 1 degree higher than they were in the pre-industrial period. A degree might not sound like much, but reality is that this incremental warming already appears to be having a negative impact. What is more, if recent trends continue, this is set to worsen, with prediction of global temperatures increasing by as much as 3 to 5 degrees in the next 80 to 100 years. Even with the tiny rise in the global temperatures, we are feeling the effects of climate change, with erratic weather patterns, including heat waves, floods, severe storms, severe droughts, loss of polar ice, and rising sea levels, among others. This will only get worse if global warming intensifies. Climate change is not a tap that we can turn off once we reduce the greenhouse gases emission. Carbon dioxide, the main contributor to the climate change, will stay in the atmosphere and keep heating the planet for years and years. So reducing greenhouse gas emission is hugely important, but we cannot stop at that. The ultimate goal should be to balance the scales again and restore the global climate to pre-climate change levels. To get there, we need to reduce greenhouse gas emission to zero, and then get cracking on repairing the past harm by drawing down past emission. So how can we get to zero emission? This explosion of interest in net zero was driven by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, UN body, in its special report titled Global Warming of 1.5 degrees centigrade, which was released in 2018 or 2018. This report made it clear to the world governments the vital importance of net zero as an interim goal in the response to climate change. This has seen many governments both local and national, set their own net zero goals. Basically, we know that the impacts of climate change cannot stop worsening until the overall quality or quantity of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere stops increasing. Among other things, that means that the fossil fuel consumption, that is in form of burning coal, oil, gas, must rapidly drop towards zero. Net zero describes the point in time where humans stop adding to the burden of climate heating gases. So how are countries doing this, that is achieving net zero emissions? We already have the technology that we need to power the globe and accelerate towards net zero emissions, including replacement of coal and gas fired power stations with cheaper, clean and reliable renewable energy, which is backed by storage technologies. To get there, it is important that we replace fossil fuels. We meet all our energy needs with renewable means, and also take concrete action to restore the damaged landscape. We promote resilience to those living on the land and repair past harm to the atmosphere. Doing this will reduce the new emissions of greenhouse gases to as close to zero as possible, and also remove the greenhouse gases we have put there in the past. The problem is that most countries lack credible climate renewable energy policies to drive towards the future that we need. So these countries need to have this in place, and they need to target at meeting the requirements of Paris climate targets. So there are 10 solutions that have been recommended by the World Resource Institute that countries and individuals can take to get to net zero emissions. One is a gradual phasing out of coal plants and other fossil fuel energy sources. We invest in clean energy and make it efficient. Retrofit buildings. We decarbonize cement, steel and plastic. We shift to electric vehicles. We increase mass transport or public transport. We decarbonize aviation and shipping. We stop deforestation and restore degraded lands. We reduce food loss and waste. We eat more plants and animals. So these are some of the recommended ways that individuals and also countries can adopt to ensure that they get to net zero emissions. At individual level, we also have a responsibility to play our parts to reduce global warming, planting trees, recycling, use less hot water, switch off electricity when not in use. We switch to energy efficient devices. So with this, we can also play a part in ensuring that we achieve the net zero emission. And we should not stop there. We should also aim at repairing the damage which has been done in the past. It's only through this way that we can reduce global warming and check the climate changes that are causing havoc in different parts of the world. So thank you for watching this video. Like it, share, and also comment on and let us know which type of videos would like us to feature, or talks would like us to feature in the future. So thank you and welcome for another video.